just regarding the injury crisis at Essendon. In your opinion, with your knowledge, is it as bad as what everyone has been saying?
No, I heard that they had headaches and a couple of other things, but I would say, and I can report, it is not very serious.
So, you don't consider the season-ending injuries to 10 players as being serious?
No, I don't consider them very serious injuries relative to other injuries that I've seen. I've seen people with no legs and with no arms. I've seen people that were horribly, horribly injured. I consider them to be really bad injuries. No, I do not consider that to be bad injuries, no.
See the Bombers fly up to win the Premiership flag. Our boys who play.
So the injury list is out for the Bombers, as it is every Tuesday. There's a couple of minor things to report. I'm not going to go through all the players that have season-ending injuries individually. There's 10 of them, or there's 11 if you include Mackay, who it said last week, hasn't officially been ruled out of the season, but he kind of unofficially has. Look, he's not going to be playing for the rest of the year. So just quickly, the players who are out for the season are Will Setterfield, Tom Edwards, Nick Martin, Zach Reed, Nick Bryan, Lewis Hayes, Nick Cox, Sam Draper, Harrison Jones, Darcy Parish, and we'll throw Mackay into that as well. So other than those players, the players who are out for the year, there are 5 other players who could return this year. We're just going to go through them now. So Ben Hobbs is the first one. So Hobbs has missed 2 weeks with a groin injury. He didn't play in the VFL last week. He was dropped, dropped/injured, and then he didn't play in the VFL. He and Archer May were both expected to play in the VFL and didn't play. He is recovered from that now, and he is available for selection after a groin injury. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Hobbs. I made a prediction earlier in the preview for the Sydney game that Jaden Nguyen, I still can't pronounce that name, but that Jaden Nguyen will possibly come into the team. That might be wrong. Hobbs is probably the next best available player to come in, but if they want to go for a defender, they'll probably go with Nguyen for Ridley, even though he's not a tall defender, because Hobbs has been in and out of the side anyway. But we'll see. I mean, if it's just a next best available player that comes in, Hobbs will be right. But then again, they might not risk him given he's coming back from the groin injury. But officially, he actually is available. It's just a matter of whether he plays in the VFL or whether he plays in the AFL team. Langford is eyeing a return to the team. Langford has only 2 weeks to go from his quad, so he will most likely return this year. I wonder if he'll come back through the reserves. I suspect he probably won't. I mean, what's the point coming back through the reserves when virtually anyone who's in the reserves needs to be playing in the seniors anyway, given the lack of players, especially when you're a senior player like Langford. So he'll be back in a couple of weeks. He'll miss this week, and he'll miss the game against Geelong. I'm sure he's really upset about missing the Geelong game. I can't imagine anyone would be that upset about missing that game. I'm actually going down to the Cattery to watch that game, and I'm kind of looking forward to it in a can't keep your eyes off a car crash sort of thing. But Langford will miss this week and the game against Geelong, and he'll be back for the game after that, at least according to the update from the club. Elijah Sartis, who was listed as 4 weeks last week, is still 4 weeks this week. And this is kind of what annoys me about these soft tissue injuries at the club. They all seem to be 4 to 6 week injuries, and they just seem to drag on and on and on. And it's just the same this week as it was last week. He's a month away last week, and he's still a month away this week. So that's close to season over for him, more or less, you'd think. Maybe he comes back for the last game. Maybe, but probably not. So, yeah, that's just frustrating that, it was supposed to be a 4-week injury, and it hasn't really changed in the last week. But he has a hamstring, so we'll see how that goes. It was going to be a very, very important month for Elijah Sartis in terms of his future at the club, not in terms of remaining an AFL player. He will remain an AFL player next year, but how he had performed in this last month of the season would go a long way to determining whether he would stay on Essendon's list, whether he requests a trade, or whether the club trades him. But he probably won't be playing for the rest of the year, at least according to the time frame given by the club. Jai Caldwell is the other one. Jai Caldwell is 4 weeks away. So once again, like Sartis, he will be back maybe for the last game of the season, but that is not confirmed. It is a syndesmosis injury. He had his ankle caught in a nasty tackle, so that puts him in the time frame to possibly play in the last game of the season against the Gold Coast, perhaps. The other one, Jordan Ridley. So scans did confirm a minor hamstring strain to Jordan, and it's confirmed that he will miss 4 weeks of football. So, look, he sustained that injury in the second quarter, of course, against the match against the Bulldogs. So, like Caldwell and like Hobbs, that puts him out for the season. And, look, I mentioned him in my video about the potentially tradable players. I wouldn't have had him as a tradable player ordinarily, but I guess he's in a category that you wouldn't actively trade him, but if an offer came from another club, you would consider the offer. So you wouldn't necessarily put him up for trade, but if another club came to you with an offer, then you would look at that offer and consider it. I think that's kind of the category I would put him into. That's sort of how I would qualify it, given that video I did the other day about the 13 untradeable players. He wasn't one of them. I considered him now a tradable player. Some of you were wondering why I wouldn't put Vigo Vicentini and Nick Bryan in that category. And the reason I don't have them in that category is because I wouldn't trade them. I wouldn't trade Vigo or Jordan Ridley or Nick Bryan, but they're not. Players like Vigo and Nick Bryan, they're not so good and talented that you wouldn't at least listen to an offer from another club. That's kind of what I was referring to. And I'd put Ridley in that category. He's talented enough, obviously. He's more talented than the other two. But I would at least listen to an offer if it was made. I wouldn't go actively trying to trade him, but if another club said, hey, we'll offer you this and this and this, you would consider it. That's the kind of category I would put him into. So that is the injury list for the Bombers. We have 5 players, excluding the 11 who are out for the season, who may or may not return this year. Just looking at it, Hobbs and Langford are the only 2 that are really going to come back this year. Sartis, Caldwell and Ridley are not going to come back, or if they do, it might be for 1 game. So you might as well rule them out. So it's effectively 14 players out for the season, effectively, with only really Hobbs and Langford being the players who will, return this year. Langford in 2 weeks, and Hobbs is back now and will play at least in the VFL or maybe in the AFL. So I'm going to leave it there. Just a short update, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. About 60% of the people watching this are not subscribed, and it only takes 1 second to do so. So I'd really appreciate it if you could do that. Have a great day, and as always, go Bombers!